Welcome everybody. Today is 5/16 Saturday. It is 10 a.m. local time here for me in the mountains over in Colorado. I got my good friend here, the legendary ODH. We're going to have a really good conversation for you. We're going this on a very conversational level. Make sure you do follow ODH at Old Damn Hillbilly. Spelled, it's spelled. It sounds as it's spelled on X. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Y'all aren't subscribing. I see y'all viewing. You ain't subscribing. So sub, comment, like. Really appreciate that. And make sure to follow myself on X at MNBFY Pod. And so today we're going to be talking about America. Where are we at right now? Things seem pretty grim. We're getting a lot of gaslighting going here, telling us all is good. Stock market's doing excellent. The world is great. The economy is great. We beat Iran 3,000 times. But like, what direction are we going? Are we truly in a hopeful direction? Or are we moving into a dystopian future hellscape? And I brought ODH here because he's a wealth of knowledge on a lot of topics. And we're just gonna go from there. So, hey, ODH, where do you want to start, man? What do you want to talk about?
Let's go back in history for a second and start at the beginning. If you go back to before 1913 in America, everybody kept their money. They kept their income. Central banking system wasn't here. Hard-working farmers and workers kept what money they earned. They were happier. They were safer. As a country, we were successful. Go several years into the future, and the legendary Paul Harvey does his 1965 If I Was the Devil. And when he recorded that and released it, they all said he was hyperbolic. He was crazy. It could never happen in America. It was totally out of reach. Now, fast forward to 2026 and listen to it, and you think he was a prophet forecasting the future events. The history is only negative if we don't learn from it. And so that's what we got to ask ourselves the question, and your audience got to ask themselves the question. Are we learning? Are we prepared to avoid the obvious? And so that's kind of where I'm coming from today.
No, I totally agree. I mean, like, we keep thinking about things how they are right now, or like even just like I feel like the American memory has already, like, when you think of it, it's like you crop like a timeline, right? And it's like this shifting crop that you move back and forth. I feel like we've even like lost collective memory of 2001, the invasion in Afghanistan. We forgot about 2003, Iraq. We are not even thinking about, the economic crash in 2008, the bank bailouts, bailing out the big, car manufacturers, all on our dime, right? And then to your point, when we go back further, I mean, it even goes further back than 1913, like a lot, like that's where like the people that think, I would say are critical thinkers, a lot of them like always go back just to 1913. They're like, that was when the Fed, I think it was 19, I might be getting that wrong. I'm pretty sure it was 1913, but that's where people say that's the moment shit hit the fan. I argue the shit hit the fan, after the War of 1812, where the British came down from Canada and burned down the White House, and then a treaty was signed. Why was a treaty signed? What was that treaty? And I often argue that, and this is my opinion, of course, but I often argue after that, treaty, that was essentially the beginnings of America becoming the global police, right? Where we have basically become that military arm of now the very weakened and, basically crumbling and decrepit UK, if you will. But at that time, they were still the world power. We as Americans had a very, beat all odds, through sheer will and free and the mindset of freedom and God. Maybe some don't agree on the latter, but we did have men in the cloth fighting alongside the revolutionaries, right? So what happened to that identity, ODH? Where did we, like, where do you think we lost that ethos and that that logos of America, where there was, we were, I want to say we were cutthroat, but we were warriors. This was a warrior nation, and the original immigrants that came here, like the Hessians rolled into America, you know, like the German Hessians, they became American, the Dutch, you know, and you know, I mean, I'm ethnically Persian, but I'm not a fool to understand that America was foundationally Northern Western Europeans, and you know, those of the Britain that came and essentially settled this land. Just like if someone tells me, you know, Iran needs to be a multi-ethnic nation, you need to bring all the dude, it's Persians there. If you go to Iraq, it's Iraqis. You go to China, it's Chinese. Why is it that in America now we've fallen into this trap of logic where we can't acknowledge the foundation of the nation? What do you think on that?
Let me go back just a little bit further in history and catch us up to present if I can. Um, Go back to the end of the Revolutionary War. The war is over. We just won our independence from the British. Nobody thought that was possible. Nobody in British thought a bunch of basically European hillbillies could come to the New World and beat the great British Empire, the best military on earth at the time. Nobody thought that was possible. And we did it. And so now a bunch of farmers, they get together and croppers and just average blue collar working people, and they start forming a government and forming a country. And they had great men of integrity and wisdom and Jefferson and George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and all these other great human beings that took place in creating this beautiful country. And they wasn't about power. It was about the love of country. Them kids avoiding what they grew up in. And so when they founded this country and they came up with the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, there's all the debates and the Federalist Paper and everything else. One common theme was there, and that was we had to establish something for our kids that we never had in British. We did not want to go back to a king rulership. We've been there before. We've been massacred because of that. We don't want to go back. You know, George Washington is my favorite president in history. Not because he was this rock star guy that won all these battles, and he did. Not because he didn't have moral flaws, and he did. But he was my favorite president because he never ran. They come and ask him to. He didn't want the job. He wanted to go back to his farm and be with his family and kids and his buddies. He didn't care
They
about that.
wanted him to be a king.
He didn't want to be a king. And
Yeah.
then when he could have stayed in D.C. and been king president forever at the time and never had to lead office, he left. He never campaigned. He never primaried. He never lied to the voters. He didn't do none of that stuff. So now we get to more modern times. I keep going back to the 1900s. I agree with what you said about the French and India, the French burning down the White House, that ordeal. But nothing really started rapidly deteriorating in our voting system and in this country until the central banking system got their parasites into our country. And that came through the central bank, and that came in 1914. So between 1912 and 1914, the biggest amount of policy changes that have the largest impact on our future, even to this day, that's where a lot of great thinkers would go back to because that's the birth of it. That's like the incubation period. That's where the baby was put into the oven and cooked on 350 for 2 years and pulled out of the oven. That's where it started. If you look at elections in this country, ever since 1913, every 2 years and every 4 years, we've had them in this country for 120 something odd years. You cannot find a 2 year or 4 year span to where the working class in this country has benefited from the elected politicians representing them and the quality of life have improved. You can't find it. You can find the rich getting richer. You can find politicians doing politics stuff and they're getting richer and corporations are getting stronger and bigger and the DOD is getting bigger and that's all great. But what about the lady working at Waffle House, busting her butt trying to feed her two kids, and she gets off work last night, sitting at the kitchen table, and she's crying because does she pay for gas today to go to work, or does she feed her 3 year old son to say, "Mama, I'm hungry"? Nobody's thinking about her. They're just not. And so that's why I link everything back to the 1913 time frame. It's linked from there to modern times.
No, yeah, that's you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry. I keep muting my mic. I do this all the time on every episode that I mute and then I forget if I'm on or not. But yeah, I agree. Um, it always does seem to circle around money. And I know there's more stuff to it, right? Like people talk about this foreign nation's influence and that all that's part of it. I would also add to what you're saying about the money is the another major endemic issue that has grown to a point where it has to be stopped is lobbying and these PACs, these political action committees. This is ridiculous. Like, if I live in Denver and I'm voting for my local representative, it should be my donations and my fellow, townsfolk or city folk that their donations and their support is what ultimately dictates who a candidate will be through primary. And we vote and get that individual, hopefully, if there is a large enough of a body to ensure that candidate gets in. That should be how it is. But now, as we've seen, especially with this race going on with Massey, I know that's controversial. A lot of people are on, two sides of the coin with Thomas, but it's all about money. The Ed Gout. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Here's my question for you about that same topic. Beautiful. In the Constitution to run for Congress or Senate or the presidency, it laid guidelines out what's required. Got to be a U.S. born citizen. Got to be a certain age. There's certain requirements it says. Do you know what's not constitutional? Is that you have to be a billionaire to get there or a millionaire. Why in this country can't we find a mechanic working on a car in Colorado and vote for him to be the governor of Colorado? Why is it we got to elect washout, crooked, criminal, controlled, organized parasites to lead these states and lead this country because they got experience being a crook on a different level? Once a crook, always a crook. Nowhere in the Constitution does money equal requirement to serve. So take yourself. You should be able to go down to file paperwork. You're a great man, a lot of respect for you. And you should be able to run for office. Not because you're a millionaire and you can raise $1 million, because you're a cotton picking citizen of your state, you're a conservative citizen, you meet the constitutional requirements to serve in your state, you have the God given right to serve in your state. But oh no, you would never win. Because you got to be a millionaire to run. You got to get millions in TV commercials and advertisement rates, all this money and all these PACs. It's all corrupt, man. It's all money. If you look at other countries throughout history, the Roman Empire, the Asian Empire, the Greek Empire, the British Empire, all collapsed from within on three fundamental reasons: greed, self-righteousness, and hatred. Them three destroyed their country from within, and we're tendering on the same thing in America. You just said it yourself. It's all linked back to big pharma money and big lobbyist money, putting the people in they can't control on their little purse strings. Why can't we elect the guy working at Walmart that's mopping the floors? Why can't he ever go be a senator? Well, he got no experience? Okay. He ain't got experience robbing from people. How's that a bad thing, really? I'm confused about that whole debate. So we don't even elect people based on constitutional merits in this country. It's based off of experience. This person ain't got no experience. This person ain't got no experience. That's a weak argument.
No, I agree. I mean, like what just happened with like Ohio. Like, yeah, Casey Push. I mean, the dude is a bread and butter American Ohioan. He cares about his state, but then people will just vote for this Vivek Ramaswamy, who I'm not gonna lie to you, up into like the election run for Trump in 24, I was pretty pro. I like Vivek, but then when Trump got elected, then all of a sudden he starts pushing the H-1B shit. He's like, "Oh, we need H-1Bs. We can't take those away." I was like, "Bro, you just ran. You convinced America. That's the problem. Is the deception, right?" And now that Americans, I think it's like a trickle kind of number. It's growing, but it's not fast enough. But people are becoming aware of it, and they're having more discernment on like who they decide that who's a good candidate versus who's a bad. And then what you end up having is the memory and the conditioning that the average American's under, right? Like you said, it's all money. So it's like pushing an ad. So like if an ad comes out saying this person bad, people just accept that as a reality. They don't go say, is that person bad? Let me go look into this allegation. Wait a second, I don't actually see anything, substantive behind this. And then have the, the thought process to say, wait a second, if this isn't necessarily true and they're telling me it's true, I'm being deceived. And who's behind this deception? And like you said, it's corporations, it's foreign lobbyists, it's people with nefarious interests that are not about the conditions and livelihoods of your average American. It's about, if I get this person in as governor in Ohio, I'm going to get a brand new data center. If I get this person into Ohio, they're going to ease up some of these laws on these pharmaceuticals. They're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then it's like Americans have just gotten to a point where we just react to shit. It's like, I believe this, and then you get into it, and then all of a sudden everything they promise you doesn't happen. Now you're pissing and moaning about it, and you're pissed off, but you do nothing, because the next 2 years and the next four, this same cycle of like the lesser of two evils, and who do they advertise? And you see one ad that tells you this person bad. Now you're joining that groupthink. You're joining that tribalism. You know what I mean?
Let me add this real fast. Let me go back and clarify something because I'm gonna get blown up over it. No, I'm not saying a mechanic is qualified to be president. Now, I'm not saying some janitor is qualified to sit as the um, Speaker of the House or President of the Senate. I'm not naive. That there is some legitimate argument to be made about experience. But my
Right.
point of reference was common Americans, not millionaires, not
Yeah.
billionaires, common
You're
everyday
talking about the
Joe
everyman.
that have real character, real moral. That's my point. Now, to
Yeah.
your topic you're just bringing up, this is why I believe this way. I'm gonna ask your audience a very simple question. Here it is. You heard me say it a million times. Here it is. The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing expecting different results. That is also the definition of the U.S. election system. Every 2 years and every 4 years, we keep hearing the same lies money can buy. We keep voting the same way, expecting different results. And here's the weak excuse of it all. The Republicans will say, "Well, this candidate is the weaker of the two candidates, so we got to hold the line." So basically, you're accepting failure by voting for that person, and you're okay with that. That's insanity. The Democrats are just fat crap crazy, but at least they're unified fat crap crazy, you know. And so nobody can prove to me how my logic is wrong about the voting system being a repetitive cycle of insanity. It is. You're
It
doing the
is.
same thing every 2 and 4 years. I mean, for 120 plus years, we've been doing midterm elections and federal elections in this country back to before JFK. And you can't give me a 10-year period of voting politicians on the federal level, a 10-year period to where the working class in this country, the janitors, the garbage pickup guy, the trash pickup guy, the guy cutting grass, the guy working in a mill somewhere, working hard as he can, or busting his knuckles under a car hood. Give me 10 years where his quality of life have improved based on policies made by career politicians. I don't see it. I just
I
don't.
don't
But we
either.
vote for these people every 2 years and 4 years. It's insanity. It's
No, it
absolutely.
is. It's absolutely nuts, man. I mean, I would tell you that my thoughts on this is, well, what we're seeing is a pendulum swing that's getting further and further, right? Like, so you had Clinton, you had Bush Senior, HW, and that was kind of like the slight push of, those ball bearings where you hit them and they swing. It was like, it really started intensifying, is what I'm saying, is with HW. So like HW does it, you have Desert Storm, and everyone's like, I don't know, man, I don't want to be in these wars. But like, there's still a patriotism behind it. Like, we're democracy and freedom. We're spreading democracy, freedom, the Rumsfeld model. And then it gets to Clinton, right? And then it starts to intensify a little bit more. And now the right is starting to get really dissatisfied. You know what I'm saying? And then after Clinton, what you have is the very controversial 2000 election between Gore and Bush, right? And that's when it became contentious because it was Supreme Court over Florida, where the vote's legit. It's all, in my mind, it's all bullshit show. But now everyone's getting more amped up, because now we're at, 9/11 happens, one of the worst tragedies in America. And now people are getting galvanized in the false sense of, I won't say false, I take that back. I won't say false sense of patriotism, but the advocation of war being patriotism starts to really intensify here, right? But that also pushes the left into more of a resistance model, right? They're like, F you, we're not about this. Then you come into Obama. Now the pendulum swung hard the other direction, right? Now the right is galvanized, pissed off, sick of this crap, right? And then what happens? Then what happens is Trump gets, comes down the elevator in 15. Now elements of the right are starting to fracture apart, right? Because we have the, Trump derangement syndrome right. We have the maniacal left now. And then you get into Biden. Now even the left is fracturing because they don't like Biden. They didn't like Clinton. Then you come to today. It is, in my mind, a psychological operation of conditioning to further push us apart from each other, to not to prevent any idea of commonality, that we may disagree on 7 out of 10 topics, but the weight of the 3 we agree on, which we're starting to see right now, is so much more important, that unification on these topics and compromise is important, because that's what the founders did. You think that they all just agreed on how to write the Constitution? Dude, we had the Federalists and Anti-Federalists. Like, they did not agree on shit for a long time, but they never intended for bipartisanship. And we've been moved into this tribalism of like left versus right. We got to shatter that.
Well, if you look at everything, like you were just saying, if you go back to Obama, and I'm not going to bash him, I could, but I'm not. Obama said in a press conference one time, I forget what year, don't quote me in a year, but he said if we can cause the masses to question everything and believe nothing, we've done won the battle. We don't have to do anything else. If you go back before Obama to Bill Clinton, in a speech Bill Clinton gave when the dark sciences was first being generated, um, Bill Clinton made a statement: we should slow down on cloning humans until we understand the effects this going to have on society. Now, why in the
Right.
hell did Bill Clinton talk about cloning humans if cloning humans wasn't even possible? I mean, but back to Obama. Obama started ultimate cycle that ran through the end of Joe Biden. When Donald Trump come down to escalate, I remember when Donald Trump owned the football team. I remember growing up and seeing Trump on TV, and I wanted to be Trump. He had the money, he had the women, he had the flair, he has the lifestyle. I wanted to be him. He had it all. When he come down the escalator, I thought to myself, this is a joke. This is for the celebrity TV show. This ain't real. Until the CNN debate. I've been saying my whole life mainstream media was fake. But I'm a nobody. Damn old hillbilly from the backwoods of Alabama. When Donald Trump got on national TV and said the news was fake, all of it, and when the moderator said, "Well, Mr. Trump, if you say the whole system is rigged and it's all fake, where's your evidence?" And he said, "I know it's fake because I used to buy the best politician money can buy." Holy ham sandwich, a rock star was born. At that moment, I thought he cared about me. I become a hardcore Trumpaholic from that speech forward. Now you get to now. I was enraged. My vote was stolen in 2020. And I was mad at my fellow citizens, not the federal government. They're crooks. Where was the outrage? Where was us the people in the streets protesting? Where was us, doing whatever we could to fight for our voice being heard? Our president was stolen, and nobody cared. No Republican, nobody cared for us. We didn't even care enough to go to the streets and protest it. We just took it. Well, we got to take it the way it is. We got to stick our head in the sand. Yippee ki And so we have Joe Biden idiocy for 4 years, and then Trump come back, and I vote for him for a third time. I remember every campaign he ran on no new wars. I got 2 kids in the military. He didn't say finishing up old news. He said no new wars. Okay, Dodge showed us last year all the corruption in D.C. with our tax dollars from politicians. But we can't lock up a politician, but we can go get a dictator from Venezuela. That wasn't on the exit poll. You look at the data yourself. Don't believe old hillbilly. Greenland, Cuba, Venezuela, Iran did not even rank in the top 100 on exit poll voters that supported Trump in 2024.
Dude, we wanted to go after Mexico for the cartels, then they pivoted to Venezuela.
Thank you. So I feel betrayed by the Trump administration because nothing's done in America. Man, I'm paying almost $1 more for gas today than I was 60 days ago at my same gas pump I've been going to for 3 years.
Dude, so real quick on that, like my wife, because we got our little business or whatever on the side, and for taxes you keep all the receipts. So she went and just got gas Thursday, and she sent me a picture, 521 for 91. So when she gets home, she's like, "Well, look at this." So she got a receipt. It was actually from April though. She was like, April of 25. She's like, for 3/4 tank, I paid $48. Yesterday, for 3/4 tank, she paid like $79, $80. And then you think about the person, like you said, the example of the mother that works at Waffle House in the small town that doesn't have big white collar jobs and all that. Everyone's like, go get a better job. It's like, dude, not everyone lives in one, we're not all cut out for it. Two, you have the freedom to choose what you want to do. But in that small town where that mother is working at Waffle House, and she has to now pay $30 a week more for gas every week. And then Trump tells you, dude, and I gotta say real quick, I love Trump, man. I lost so many friends and relationships with friends. I had family cut me off, calling me a psychopath for being a supporter of his. And then come to today, I'm in the same boat as you, where I'm very upset about the lies. And when he says, I don't think about the financial situation of the American, like, what is up with that?
Let me be honest about this. I'm not blaming Trump for everything, to be fair.
No, of course not. But, he's at the helm.
I am upset at the entire federal government because, let me give you another example, okay? Another thing that really upsets me. Last year, Doge showed us all the fraud took place with elected politicians with our tax dollars. And 12 months later, on April 15th, 2020, the American citizens were so outraged at all this fraud not being held accountable. What did? We went pay taxes. We gave them a refund of our tax money to continue to steal. Now somebody make that make sense. I don't care about Iran's war. I'm sorry for the people. I don't care about Venezuela. I don't care. I care about America.
Amen. Yeah.
Can't lock up politicians for stealing our tax money, but you can snatch a dictator. You can go to a third world. You can go to another country in the Middle East called Iran, and you can attack them. But you can't charge a politician with money laundering and stealing taxpayer money and getting their own pockets loaded while you got people in this country, veterans sleeping on the streets, people who are working 2 jobs just to be broke. You can't fix none of that. But you can go overseas and do all this other stuff. We spent $60-something million on the war in Iran. You know how many families that would have fed in America? You know how many veterans could have got proper care or been brought off the streets with $60 million in this country? But oh no, we can't do that. We got to go to Iran because they are a threat. For 50 years, they've been threatening us. Well, here's some facts for you on that whole argument. Waco, Texas was not linked to Iran. Oklahoma City bombing was not linked to Iran. The World Trade Center 92 bombing was not linked to Iran. 9/11 was not linked to Iran. Ruby Ridge was not linked to Iran. So the last 7 of the last 10 terrorist acts that happened inside of our country, not one of them was ever linked to Iran or their proxies. But that's the biggest threat we face on Mother Earth. Are you for real? Are you serious? And we supposed to buy that story? Come on, man, for real.
But people buy it though, dude. That's what blows my mind. You and me, we get on a lot of spaces. We have some great mutuals that we talk to, that we have awesome conversations with, where we live in like a microcosm. I would even call it an echo chamber, because we got people coming in that are very opposed to the positions that some folks have. But it's awesome discourse, right? But then you think of like in the macro lens, like look at like on X, just like all these bullshit propaganda pushers. Like here's a fact that's counter to what you're saying. They say you're crazy, you're anti-American, and then the comments section is all these bots telling you you're a piece of trash and you're against America and you're not a patriot. It's like, look, America, we were told by the founders, enemies, foreign and domestic. We live in an era where we're being diverted to look and see like the enemy is foreign, when in my mind, the enemy is very domestic. The
The
enemy is
very
money and corporations.
the greatest threat to America. And this is the exact quote from the old damn Hibberly himself. Y'all can quote me on this. The greatest threat to this country is not China, is not Russia, Iran, is none of the countries. The greatest threat to our country in 2026 is the United States American citizen.
I
We are
agree.
on threat. And I
Yep.
don't care if I get blown up for that. We are. You can't get two Americans to agree coffee is black or the grass is green.
Yep.
We're so divided in this country, it's sickening, and it don't matter. We don't have a two-party system. We have the criminal elite and me and you and us, people, everyday working citizens. That's who we have. Until we can unite as one voice under one flag for one nation to save the future for our kids and grandkids, we are doomed for collapse by the evidence presented in history with other nations. And that's a fact. We're never going to be invaded by China. We're never going to be invaded by North Korea or Iran or Russia. Geopolitics is important, and us damn hillbillies ain't smart enough to understand it. But I promise you, it's not going to cause the collapse of America if that was to ever happen. That would be head up the spear, the tip of that spear would be the United States American citizens and her self-righteous, self-naive, self-centered, criminally intent, self-focused greed that we have inside this country. Nobody's going to give up their financial position so their kids or grandkids can have a better tomorrow. It's about turning the profit today, looking out for their own financial interests, and stomping on as many families as possible to enhance their own financial profile. That's American. The American dream now has a price tag that 92.5% of our fellow citizens will never achieve, no matter what they do. That is sad. Every American should be in tears over that. It's not a Republican problem. It's not a Democrat problem. That's an American problem. And
No.
we got to, so they tell alcoholics in AA meetings the first step to fixing a problem is admitting you got a problem. And we got to stop blaming countries. We got to say, hey, we're stupid. We made a lot of mistakes here in America. We voted for these people. And then we got to come together collectively as one voice under one flag for one cause. Like our founding fathers gave us 250 years ago, July 4th this year. You know, as we celebrate the 4th of July on our birthday, a mile marker, each one of us need to ask ourselves, how are we representing our founding fathers? What are we doing with the greatest land in the greatest country with the greatest document ever created for the next generation? What are we doing? I mean, seriously, what are we doing? Are we not holding
Squandered.
nobody accountable? Are we going to let them continue destroying us because of a voting system that has proven to fail? And if voting was so critical, and so if the voting brigade was 100% right, where's the say that? Where's the say that, Republicans? It's a no brainer. It should not be brain science. Where is it? Still ain't passed. But voting the answer. Voting the end all to be all. Come on, man. We got to be better than this as a country and as a people. Our grandkids are going to remember this. And
Yeah.
we don't want our grandkids sitting around a picnic table somewhere while John's flying over surveying for the system and them talking to each other in handwriting code, asking why didn't our great grandparents stop this? What could they have done? Because we're not doing nothing. We're really not. Anyway, I'm
No, because
sorry.
we're mental. No, you're good, man. That was awesome. I mean, like we're mentally captured as a whole. It's just the social engineering that's been. Look, man, it is very much Pavlovian, where you're conditioned. It's also an element of like the frog in the pot. So you're being conditioned on one side, but you're also being cooked, all to an inevitable outcome, potentially. So
Let
my
me
question to you is, if we can, let's pivot back to our theme here. If we pivot back to the theme that we're talking about, ODH, what do you think? Do you think that the future is hopeful, or do you think we are on a runaway train into a dystopia as a
let,
nation?
let me answer it this way. To any of your audience who are firefighters or volunteer firefighters, I'm going to use a scenario. Occasionally, a firefighter would show up at a house fire and it would be engulfed. It'd be a bad flame. And there'd be the family sitting out in the grass. They'll be crying, hysterical. Their whole life pictures, everything be going up in smoke. And my friend, you'll be the chief fireman on site, the person on site with all the fire people who's in charge. And you'll have to walk over to that mother and father and look them in the eyes and say, ma'am, Mr. and Miss Homeowner, we can't contain this so nobody else lose nothing. But your structure must burn. We cannot stop it. There's not enough water. There's not enough time. We might can save the fireplace, and maybe a couple of pictures might survive. But the house is going to burn, and there's nothing we can do but watch it. America is on the pivot of being forced to watch it burn to fix it because it's at the core. Everybody blames everybody. There's no real sacrifice. There's no real unification. It's all propagandist nonsense. And we all believe it every single day. So to answer your question from the topic today, yes, America could change it. Never bet against Americans.
Amen. Yeah.
Statistically, with historical data to back up them statistics, America is on a course for collapse. The
Like when
house,
you say collapse, do you think it's like it's over, or like we're gonna just regress or fall into like a third world kind of scenario, like where we're gonna be no different than like what Western Europe is becoming, right? Like when we look at like
I
Spain
think,
or the UK.
I think it's going to head towards something like a modern day Hunger Games.
Oh, God bless. So like the old Agenda 2021 kind of agenda, FEMA regions, you think it's gonna, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. That's always in the back of my mind, and I try to bury that deep in my mind because, you and me, we always talk about this stuff. I'm like, man, I try to stay as gray pilled, and not that I'm saying you're being black pilled. I'm not. I'm just like you're painting a scenario, but like for me, it's like, man, I just don't want to in my mind accept that possibility. But I would be a fool to deny that it's not, there isn't a probability of it happening because
I mean, here's some things that's got to happen to change everything. Okay, it really does. Number one, voting got to be fixed. I don't care if you got to nuke the filibuster. I don't care what you got to do. You got to do whatever you got to do to pass the Save Act tomorrow morning. I don't care if everybody goes to Senate and they sleep at their desk and they eat at their desk and they take a pee and poop at their desk. Nobody can leave the building until the son of a bitch is passed. Period. The second thing you got to do is put handcuffs on people. I don't care if they get off. I don't care if they beat the case in court. I don't care if the case is weak. You got to show the masses you're making an attempt to hold criminals accountable. I ain't saying win the case at this point, but you got to do more than talk. You just
I mean
got to.
you got one really good example right now. And I'm not trying to go into the Epstein files stuff, but I'm just bringing up like a small example. It's like Howard Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, the son of a bitch lied. He said I went to his house with my wife and he had a massage table and he was disgusting. And then all the proof shows he went to the island with his kids
Well,
and he still holds his position of power.
I
Like,
got
how is that
another,
possible?
I got another example for you. We had an attorney general last year that said she had files on her desk for review, and 45 days later, there was no files. That's the definition of obstruction. Why ain't she charged with obstruction justice?
And how, now that we found out, like after the last drop with the bill that Massey sponsored and had pushed, right, where it made it law they had to disclose these documents. We found out that I think they put out like 3.5 or something of like potentially 6 million documents. So when you go back and you look at what she said, I have all the documents on my desk. Like, bitch, you did not have 3.6 million documents sitting on your desk. But people don't have that like memory to go back and question what they were told compared to the reality of it.
But you got to fix voting. Back to what I was saying real fast.
Go ahead.
The second thing is we got to get away from this mindset. It's got to be Republican or Democrat, and it's got to be money. The hell with that. If you know a person will make a good mayor or governor or whatever it is, he legally can do it based on where you live, then your people got to rally around him, and he got to become elected. He got to get elected. We got to stop voting a party line that does not care about us. There are no party lines. We got to vote individually for what they believe in, not some crooked damn party. We just don't. You can't tell Republicans from Democrats no more. When they get off TV, they gonna have a beer and laugh at the American people because we believe this nonsense. It's the biggest crock of crap I've ever seen in my whole life. So if we can do that as a country, we can save us.
Dude, totally agree. And that's what my position has been is like, you got to break this two-party paradigm and view things. We got to transcend our minds beyond the cage they have us fighting in. They got us bickering and fighting over Democrat or Republican when there's commonality where we all say we don't want no fucking war.
And
Go ahead.
There's one more thing we got to do.
All right.
America needs more love and less hate. When 100%. A child falls down and get a scrape on their knee, or they get a boo-boo, or some mothers out there know what I'm talking about. They go to their mother for a hug or their father for a hug, and there's healing power inside the hug. We got enough hate on this platform, on X, on social media, amongst fellow citizens for different things. We need to stop with the hate, dude. Yeah. Hate has never breathed hope. Hate has never saved nothing. We need compassion. We need understanding. And we need to unite as one country. And we can save America still, even now. I don't know if our fellow citizens are willing to do that. And that's the ultimate question. And so your audience got to ask themselves, are they willing to sacrifice for America? Not in the echo chamber, but are they willing to sacrifice to save their kids and grandkids' future? And if they are, there's time. But we're running out of time, man. The clock is ticking.
Yep.
Ask Republicans this question that's listening in your audience. If I'm right and the Democrats win by a landslide, and I pray I'm wrong, but let's say I'm right hypothetically for devil advocate purposes, and the Democrats win, what's the backup plan? What are you going to do about all these investigations? They go away. They all end. What's the backup plan? Now, my friend, you do a lot of investing for yourself, looking out for your own financial well-being. To somebody come to you and say, I'm putting all my money in one basket, what would you tell that person?
I would tell them I'm not giving you financial advice, but you need to diversify your investments. Hedge against one against the other.
We need to diversify our love and tactic for saving this nation.
Amen.
and
Yeah.
quit falling in line under a political party because of an R or a D and what they claim they mean. Nobody cares. They don't even care. They really and truly don't. So if we can do them things, America can avoid my forecast. I hope I'm wrong. Every day I pray I'm wrong. I don't want to see Trump impeached. I really don't.
I don't either.
I don't want to
I
see the
don't either.
Democrats win midterms. I'm afraid for what's coming because they're going to make it worse. They will nuke the filibuster. Y'all can go ahead and put a check mark on it. They
Yep.
will pack the Supreme Court, bet money. The Second Amendment, they're going to sign an executive order with an auto pen and come after everybody's stuff. So
They ain't
it's
coming
going to be,
after my shit. They could try.
I want to be wrong. But what did the Republican Party do to prove me wrong? What are my fellow citizens doing? They preaching the same song and dance I've been hearing for 120 years, and it hasn't worked yet.
I agree, man. I mean, I think we could both say in closing here, we could both say that we are cautiously optimistic and we are more hopeful than we are dreading like an inevitable end to America. My personal take on it is I think we're moving in the right direction. I just think it's too slow. I think people are waking up too slowly. But I am seeing things that I like that started with the 24 election, which was unification, which was independents, moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, MAGA, far right, all came together, put all their shit aside, and they got Trump elected. Now, are these different factions happy right now? Hell no, because we were lied to on a lot of things. But that to me, that action, seeing that happen, we beat, collectively, we beat the odds. We beat the system.
You're
And
right.
so, yeah, go
And
ahead.
I say this real fast. You're 100% right. Here's the miscalculation for Republicans. And it's a true statement. I don't care what nobody says. Can't argue the numbers. You have to have 95.5% of Trump base to win midterms. Fact.
Yeah, he ain't
If,
going to get it.
if you don't have
But
95.5, checkmate, game over.
yeah,
And there's a lot of independents like myself, not just me. I'm
myself.
not the lone wolf. A lot of us are not going to vote midterms. And so now you got to ask yourself, what do we do? Because
No,
without
true.
us, without more people, not just me, I'm a nobody, but without them ones that are going to stay home, without that 95.5% of Trump's base, you can't win midterms without it. I don't care who you are. You just can't.
I agree. I agree. And it almost feels like it was let me turn up my tinfoil hat. I've twisted it on, but it almost feels like this was architected to be this way. The way it's been going since last summer, I feel like they got the coalition, they got Trump, we got Trump in, and then they blew it up by calling people panicins or anti-MAGA, and then anti quote unquote anti-MAGA, calling MAGA cultists. We're all divided.
Let me share this, man. I believe the Republican Party, minus Trump, okay,
Yeah.
the party is working overtime to cause their own midterm loss.
Yeah,
Nothing,
I agree. I
nothing,
agree.
nothing. You mean to tell me the SAVE Act, the one piece of thing up there that every American, Democrat and Republican, agree on, they
Yeah.
can't, they can't get vote, they can't get the Republican vote for? Are you serious? And the
Yeah.
midterms for real? I mean, I'm sorry. I hope I'm wrong. Please, your audience, please forgive me if I'm wrong. But this is in my perspective, the Republican Party working overtime to get the Democrats to win, and that's
Yeah.
just
I agree. I agree. But people need to wake up, use discernment, stop listening. If you're being preached certain rhetoric over and over again, you got to have a switch in your mind that you flip on to say, why are they all parroting this shit? And where does this information come from? What's the source of it? What is the angle that's being played here? And I actually fully agree with you. I feel like it's a controlled demo. I've said it before. I'm not afraid to say it here on the podcast. I do feel like it's an architected controlled demo of the right to bring in the absolute psychotic radical left into power. And I think If they succeed in 28, my fear is that that dystopia scenario is going to get real because, like you said, they will pack the courts. They will do everything in those 4 years because they are unified. They're unified in the. Not all Democrats are bad. I'm talking about the deep left. I'm talking about these folks that call themselves Democrats, but they're basically Bolsheviks and communists that pose as Democrats. If they get the control of the legislature and are able to hijack the judiciary and get the presidency in the from 28 26 on, I don't know, man. I don't even want to say out loud what I think what it would take um, to get the country back, if at
I'm
all.
gonna say I'm gonna say this much for your audience in closing. I would hope they would go if they got kids or grandkids, or they got a spouse or significant other or a wife, to sit down with their family. Shut the dead gum social media off. Shut the dead gum
Yeah.
TV off. I want you to look at your family in a very solemn moment. I want you to ask yourself, July 4th, 250 years later, what are we doing to help the people in this room? What am I doing for my babies? What am I doing for my spouse? What am I really doing? Am I staying on social media listening to echo chamber? People get paid all kind of money to get propaganda, don't care about you? Am I making myself a prisoner in this digital prison system so I can be easily manipulated by somebody else's voice in some other chamber? Do I refuse to listen to facts when it's spoken by people who has knowledge just because it go against my personal opinions? But spend time with your loved ones between now and July 4th. Because those in your house, those in your heart, those around you, them are the ones going to pay the price for the stubbornness of our fellow citizens. Them are the ones going to be affected. Not me. I'm going to die one day, man. I'm an old man, dude. I ain't living forever. But that baby who's 3 years old sitting on your lap laughing at you, that's their future. So what are we doing as Americans to give them the same future our parents gave us and our grandparents gave us and our ancestors bled and died for so we could have? And I promise you, it's damn sure not what's taking place today. And there's a million excuses why, and none of them are right.
No, I agree, man. I think that is like a really good question for folks to ponder on and leave here. We'll leave it at that. I totally agree. Got a lot of thinking to do. We got a lot of self reflection, changing our hearts from hate to love, caring about our neighbors, caring about our friends and our family. And I dare say, get a little closer to God. So, there's a lot we could do. All of it, if we focus on the positive, maybe we will have a hopeful future.
And I would say if you're online on X and stuff, there's great men of wisdom that care about people. They're not making money. They don't care about your money. They don't care about how big your damn account is or the style of pictures you post or whatever. They care about your health, your
Yep.
safety. They care about if you're informed with real news, not a bunch of propaganda, fake crap. Find some real people. Listen to some real knowledge, like the guests of this podcast. Listen to this podcast every week. The guests he brings on are caring, knowledgeable, real human beings with great wisdom. I'm just a damn old hillbilly. Them guys are real skills. But surround yourself with knowledge and appreciate those who deliver knowledge at the guests of this podcast. Because in 2026, knowledge, true knowledge, is a red jewel in the big ocean, pearl in the ocean. Not everybody finds. So I'm grateful you hosted a podcast today. You're a part of the community I'm a part of, along with many, many other people that probably are listening to this. I'm honored to be a part of that. All you guys are elite, and I hope everybody listens.
ODH, the legendary Old Damn Hillbilly. Make sure y'all go follow him at Old Damn Hillbilly on X. Don't forget me. Subscribe to the damn channel. Comment and like. It's so hard, Dex. And yeah, y'all go on the X at MNBFY Pod. Appreciate it. We're gonna get ODH back on here. I love talking to ODH, man. We have such great conversations. I hope y'all enjoyed this one, and more to come in the future. with ODH, and got some special. I got some special guests coming up here in the next couple weeks too. I'll keep the names mum for now, but ODH, have a great day. Thank you, sir.
Have a good one, man.
All right, man. Everyone, take care. Thank you. Have a good one. Have a great weekend.